Hi, everybody. So, full disclosure, it's a real pleasure to be here talking to you today. I feel a real dinosaur because I've got my speaker notes. Before I start, I should just let you know, I've been in retail 13 months. So before that, I was in FMCG, and before that, I was a nasty strategy consultant. So I'm here, I feel somewhat under false pretenses, in that I'm not a digital expert. And I was given, along with my boss, a problem of seeking new sources of growth for the John Lewis partnership. So what I do love, though, is a good challenge, and I do love solving problems. So what I'd like to talk to you a bit about is how John Lewis is trying to tackle this big problem. What I'll do is just try to talk you through the process we went through, not knowing the backgrounds of you all in the room and whether you're really techie or not. This may be pitched at the wrong level, and you might find that this is all very basic, but it was enlightening for me over the last 13 months. So as mentioned, I work for the partnership, so it's John Lewis and Waitrose. We're divisionalized, so our divisions have quite a lot of autonomy in terms of what they do. And the partnership was put into trust in 1928 for our 90,000 employees, which means that effectively those people own our business, and they're called partners. So as you look for growth for John Lewis and Waitrose, we needed to work out what customers wanted from us. So we very much started with the customer. Can I just have a quick show of hands in the room? How many of you have shopped with John Lewis or Waitrose in, say, the last month? Oh, wow, brilliant, love it. You'll be all our high-value customers. So we've got a really loyal and affluent customer base, and we really appreciate those customers, and clearly quite a lot of you are in the audience today. They are a huge asset for us, but the difficulty when you have to develop new customer proposition for all you guys is that when we ask you what you want, you kind of hum and haw a bit. And then you go, actually, anything, I love you guys. It's really unhelpful, really unhelpful. And it equally doesn't mean that anything is a good idea. So what we did is try to look at what the world is going to look like in 10 years' time. Did a big piece of work on, polarization of spend, aging population, robotization of desire. And then we actually went out and we talked to people. So we talked to our customers. We didn't try to propose anything to you. We just wanted to find out about your lives and what we might offer you that would be of help to you. Specifically, why we took that kind of approach rather than a more traditional, let's find a proposition and actually test it with you, is because if you take 10 people in a room in a typical customer focus group and you pay them 50 quid and ask them if they like your idea, typically they'll say yes. It's a bit like asking your mum if she likes your idea or not. She'll say yes. It's not a good indicator of purchase intent and whether your customers actually like your idea. So we did that, and that gave us a lot of ideas about what we could actually take forward and how we could solve problems in people's lives. Then, so we took that customer insight, and at this point, we weren't in the digital space at all, and tried to work out what we would do with that. So for those of you that are in retail, you will know the turbulence that retail has been going through. So in grocery, having a tough time with all the hard discounters, and then in terms of kind of department stores where you start to see much more of your sales going online. So effectively, we're having to compete with online pure plays who have much lower invested capital, and therefore that means for an equivalent ROIC, they can effectively work with lower margins than we can. So kind of in a tough place, and understandably, what we decided is that the future for us is not opening more stores, not under a new brand, but what it is trying to work out digital propositions that we can blend with our existing store infrastructure and partners so that we can add value to our customers. So what did we do at that point? So John Lewis and Waitrose, we've got some customer ideas. We know that we're going to try initially to go digital. So then what we tried to do was look for on-ramps. So what's an on-ramp? It's kind of what it says on the tin, which is something that helps you get from where you are today to where you want to be. What that meant is that we found our on-ramps, but then we had to convince our organisation that it was a good idea that we took them on rather than the organisations respectively taking them on. Because quite a lot of the time, the on-ramps were in our business plans. They were in the plans for 18 or 24 months hence. And quite rightly, we got asked some tough questions about what gives you the right to come along and pinch our ideas. So that was kind of different and potentially not something that a startup would face. So we took our ideas, we got buy-in across the organisation to do that, and we sought to go and test them. So how do you do that? We decided to set up a small little environment, a bit separate to the business. We've got a history of doing this. So johnlewis.com originally was an acquisition we made of buy.com that was kept a little bit separate from John Lewis so that our normal kind of management routines didn't stifle the business. We've tried to build a fail-fast culture and new ways of working. So very flat kind of management structure. Everybody sits in the same room. We have kind of what we call 2 wicked sessions a week, where we kind of take the problems we're trying to solve and everybody sits down and tries to thrash it out. And trying to draw on kind of the existing capabilities that we already have within our organisation. So we've got to this place where we set up a new environment, we've got a team in place. So I spoke to one of the guys that we're working with, because now we have to develop the digital proposition, right? And you all know how to do this, but I didn't. So I said to this chap, Matt, I said, so what do we do now? He said, well, you develop an MVP. An MVP. Okay. So apparently minimum viable product, minimum value product, depending on who you are. And what he also told me at that point, which kind of scared the living daylights out of me, was that to do that, what I would need is a Scrum Master, a back-end developer, a front-end developer, an architecture engineer, and a UX UI specialist. Now, I don't know about you, but I couldn't hire one of those people to save my life. I don't know what they look like. Luckily, I found a man who could, which is good. So if I just, you guys will probably know this, right? But this is sort of our enlightenment about minimum viable products. So not like the top picture where you're testing the car right at the end where you've sort of spent a lot of money developing it. More like the bottom picture where you're testing movement and seeing if people like that as an idea or not. That's pretty radical for us, especially when you have brands that are as loved and trusted as Waitrose and John Lewis, because the expectations that not only our organisation has, but also our customers have about what we might produce as a minimum viable product are not necessarily one and the same thing. So typically, I guess we would take maybe 6 to 12 months to put something on the shelves. We've really embraced the startup mentality, and we've given ourselves a deadline of 3 months. So that'll be interesting. One of the other things that, so I just mentioned it was difficult knowing where to pitch an MVP with our brand, is that we're actually quite a traditional and conservative organisation, and I think that's very understandable given that we've been very successful doing what we do, and to a certain extent that success means that we're a little bit risk averse. However, despite that risk aversion, I loved this when I first saw it. So the quote by Reid Hoffman, if you're not embarrassed by your first MVP or your first product, you've launched too late. So we're kind of in that space right now, and I think we're making some people kind of nervous. So what have we achieved? We've got a small team of people. So we've got tech leads, product leads, some external support. And what we're doing is developing 3 different customer propositions. Each one we've used a slightly different approach. So on one we used support from a tech agency. One we've actually gone to India to do the build for us. And one is more of a kind of digital magazine that we've put up in WordPress, kind of testing content to commerce. And those are kind of for our best customers, and we have about 5,000 of them that we're currently testing with. I guess the surprises on this journey have been that we have found pockets of brilliance in our existing divisions, so Waitrose and John Lewis, that we weren't necessarily very aware of, and potentially a little bit hidden, a little bit not getting the level of attention that they deserved. So what we're trying to do is start to pull those together. And the challenges we faced, getting agreement across the business, actually especially with our IT and data privacy security guys, has been kind of key to what we were doing. They've been absolutely brilliant. In terms of the IT, we've got agreement around what tech strategy to deploy and at what level. So what do I mean by that? We've agreed that what we really want to achieve is test customer demand, which means we get to deploy in the cloud. We don't have to integrate with any of the existing enterprise systems, or at least not at this point. And in return, where IT want to test some new stuff out, then we kind of can do that for them. We've had quite some discussions, and it's still a balancing act in terms of how we use the Waitrose and John Lewis brands. Clearly, from our perspective, a great deal of upside in that our customers understand that it's a proposition from Waitrose or John Lewis, but difficult, as discussed, in terms of the risk and the expectations that our customers have of us. And then finally, the right organizational decisions. So some tough decisions about we're pinching people's ideas, which is not what we're trying to do. But what we are trying to do is transform the business and getting people to understand what it is we're doing and where we're doing it. I hope that's been useful. I see this very much as a journey over several years. We've already started it, and we're seeking to kind of ramp up our capabilities in this area. So with a bit of luck, we'll have a couple of things that launch in Q1, and I hope that's been useful.